Hello everyone and welcome to all of you in today's video. It is our day one workshop for backend development, and in this workshop we are going to create our very first project, that is the to-do backend. Okay, now before starting our project, I want to say few words like, just because it is a workshop, so it is utterly impossible for me to discuss about the backend from the very basic. Okay, so I will prefer to use project based learning, and during creating the project we will understand some concept of backend. Okay, now let's understand what is backend. I hope you all have visited any restaurant or cafe, right? So the entire decoration, the frontier look, and also the environment of a cafe or a restaurant is very good. It feel it feels very good, right? So that this portion is called like a front end. Okay, and there is another thing which is waiter. So whatever you want to eat or whatever you want to order something, you just have to tell those things to the waiter, and waiter will take your order and go to the kitchen, and the chef will prepare your food and you will enjoy it, right? So you don't need to think about the backend portion, about the kitchen portion, how the chef will prepare your food. You don't need to think about it, right? So the kitchen portion is basically the backend. Means when you are searching something in the browser, or suppose you want to shopping uh, via Flipkart or Amazon, you just need to interact with the front end. You don't know how the backend will work, right? So that is the basically backend, means behind the scene what is happening, that is called the backend. And in this video we are going to learn about the backend. But before starting the backend, uh, let me tell you the technologies that we are going to use in this project. That is the nodejs, uh, which is basically a JavaScript runtime environment for executing our JavaScript code outside the browser. Second thing is the expressjs, and this expressjs will help us to create a server, also managing and creating routes and controllers. Okay, and last thing, that is the mongodb database, which we will use for store our data, right? Now let's see how we can install the nodejs. Okay, just open a browser and search for nodejs. Okay, and you will get the very first website. Just click on it, and here you can see a button called download nodejs lts. Just click on the button and your download process will be started, and you can see uh, the nodejs has been installed. Now let's run this nodejs. I have already installed, that's why I am not going to install it. You can see here the next button. Just click on the button and it will automatically installed in your system, right? That is the first thing. Another thing that we need, which is called postman. So postman is an API client that will help you to test your controllers. Means whatever controller or whatever endpoint you are going to create, we are going to check it using that postman. So search for the postman, and it is its website. Click on this product here and you will get a button, download postman. So if you click on this button here, you can get another button called Windows 64-bit. If you just click on that button, then the download process will automatically initiate it. Okay, here you can see. Okay, now it will take few seconds. Just give me a second. Okay, and it will be installed. Okay, after installation, if you open this .exe file, then you can see this kind of interface. That is the interface of postman. If you want to create an account, or if you have already created an account, you can go for sign in. Otherwise you can create an account, or you can directly test your endpoints from here. right? Now another thing, that is a mongodb database. Okay, now first of all, search for mongodb and you can get the very first website. Just click on that link. Okay, it will take a second, and here you can see the interface of the mongodb.com. Suppose you have already created an account in mongodb, just go for sign in option, and if you have not created any account, just go for the try free. If I click on the try free button, then you can see this kind of interface, this kind of form will comes in front of you. If you want to fill up by manually putting those information, just go for it. Otherwise you can click on this sign up with the Google button. Okay, just a second everyone. Okay, now I have a demo email ID, so I will just create an account using that email. Okay, continue. Okay, it will take a second, just keep patience everyone. Okay, now just because I have not created any account before and it is my new account, so after selecting the Google account, you can see this kind of interface. Just click on this checkbox and go for submit. Okay, now this kind of interface you can see here. Just wait for 1 to 2 seconds, it will redirect you in another page, and after that we will create our very first cluster. Okay, now you have to select a few things like what is your primary goal. So learn MongoDB, just choose anything from here. Just to make sure that from this portion, what programming language are you primarily building on MongoDB with, just select here JavaScript / nodejs. Okay, and user activity here, microservices, search engine, just click any option from here. Okay, there is no problem. Now we have to create our very first cluster. Here you can see here you can see some options like M10, Flex or free. Just go for the free option, and just you don't need to write anything here, the cluster, just uncheck it, and I would prefer the AWS provider, and just keep it the same and click on this create deployment. Okay, and wait for a second. Okay, after deployment, here you can see the username, and you can also change the password from here. Okay, and just click on this create database user button. Okay, now the cluster has been created successfully. Just cross it, go to the clusters, and now you can see here your cluster will be created, right? It will take 1 to 3 minutes, just because you have just created the cluster, right? So for initiating it will take some time. Now go into the database access, go into the network access area. Okay, and here you can see you have just created this database, right? And it is your IP. Now go for edit option and click on this allow access from anywhere. This configuration will help you to access your database from any position of earth. Means suppose you are in America, so you can access it from the America, there's no problem. Okay, it will take a few seconds. Okay, now let's go to our VS Code, and very first thing we have to create a folder, and inside that folder we are going to create our backend project. Okay, now just give me a second. Okay, now first of all, just because it is a to do backend, so I will create a folder called to do. Right now I will go inside the to do, and very first thing, if you are going to create a backend using nodejs, on that time you have to initialize the npm first, right? So how you can initialize the npm? That is very simple. Just write npm init, means initialize, dash y. So it will help you to initialize your npm, right? You have already initialized the npm and the package.json file has been created successfully, right? Okay, some few things we have to change here. The very first thing, the type. You have to mention the type. Okay, I don't need to add the type, it is already present here. So I will change it to module.js. And you can see here the name of the backend is to do, version is 1.0.0, and the entry point is index.js, right? Now few things we have to install first, that is express, mongoose, .env and course. Okay, express, you all know we are going to create our server using express. Mongoose is the odm that will help us to create a connection between our server and the database. .env we are going to use for managing our environmental files. Course means cross origin resource sharing. It will help you to configure your backend, means which frontend can access your backend. It will declare those things. Okay, it will take a few seconds, I think. So just I will go to my database and I will check whether my cluster is created or not. I think my cluster is being created, right? And let's go inside the network access area. Yes, you can see status is active. I will go to the cluster and just click on this connect button here. And if you click on this connect button, a pop-up will be come up, and go for the compass. And from the compass, just copy this URL. Okay, just copy this URL and go to the VS Code, and inside the to do I will create an environmental file by writing .env, and I will create a variable called mongodb underscore URL, and I will paste the value here, and I will remove the forward slash. Just let me stop my AI suggestion, and you have to replace this db password with your actual password. Like I have created my password as a 2024, so I have just put it here. Now for maintaining a professional backend, we have to follow some basic folder and file structure. The very first thing, we have to create two folders. First is the public and the second is the src. Okay, inside the public folder we are going to handle all the static files like images, videos, PDFs, anything. And inside the src we are going to write our entire backend. Understand? I hope you have understood these things. Now I have to go inside the src, and inside the src there will be couple of files like database, and inside this database file we are going to configure our database. That will help you to establish a connection with the server and the database, right? Another thing, that is route means it will define a particular endpoint, and on that endpoint a particular controller will be work. Pretty easy. Another thing, that is controllers means nothing but some piece of logic, some functions that will help you to perform some operations like add a to do, delete a to do, update a to do, list all to dos, right? Another thing, that is middlewares. We don't need any middlewares, but still we are following this folder, no problem. Next thing is the model. Inside the model we will structure our backend. Okay, means structure our database, how the data will go to the database in a structured manner, right? So we are going to follow that structure. And the last thing, that is utils. We don't need the utils, though we will just put the file here. And also we need three files. First is index.js. It is our main entry file, and from this index.js we are going to execute our entire backend. Another file is constant.js, and inside this constant.js we will declare our database name. Okay, and another thing, that is app.js. Our entire Express server will be configured inside this app.js file. Now if I click on this src, you can see all the things has been created successfully, right? Now the very first thing, if you open the package.json, you can see mongoose has been installed successfully. So if you remember, I have already told that inside this database folder we are going to configure our database, right? Means how the database will be connected. So I will create a file called db.connect.js. okay, very first thing, I have to import the mongoose, and this mongoose will help you to establish a connection with your database. So I will import it from the mongoose, and I will also create a function like connectdb. And just because I'm going to connect my database, that's why it will take few moments, means a few time. That's why the function will be asynchronous, and I will export it defaultly connectdb. Okay, now I have to mention a database name, right? So I have to go inside the constant.js, and I will create a database name like db name will be to do db. Okay, now I will export it from here, db name. That's pretty easy. Now I have already declared my database name. Now I have to import that database name inside the db.connect.js. Just because I am going to create a connection with my database, now I have to provide the name of the database that I want to create, right, for storing all the informations. For that reason, I have to import the db name, and don't forget to put a .js after the constant. Just for playing safe, I will use try catch. Here I will console log the error message in this way, like error, okay, dot message. And inside the try block I will take the mongoose, and mongoose provides a method that is called connect, and inside the connect I am going to provide the URL. How can I provide the URL? I will simply write process.env.mongodb_url. Suppose you have created any .env file, and inside the .env file you have also created any variable. So by writing process.env, and after that the variable that you have created inside the environmental file, if you put the name, then you can access the value of that variable easily. And after putting the URL, you have to put the database name. So my database name is present inside this db name variable, so I will just pass the db name in this format. And suppose my database is being connected successfully, so on that time I will receive some kind of response, right? So I have to contain that response. That's why I will create a variable called response, and this operation will be asynchronous. That's why I have to put an await, and here I will console log like db connected, and also I will put the response dot connection dot host. That's pretty easy, right? So my database connection is being created successfully. Now I have also export this connectdb function, and I will go inside the index.js because my entire backend will be started from the index.js. So I will import the connectdb function. Don't please do not forget to put .js, and also I have to import the .env, because without .env we cannot import any variable from the environmental file, and also we have to configure it in this way, .env.config. That's it. And I will execute the function connectdb here. And if I go to the terminal and let me go inside the to do, and now I have to execute the index.js. If you see, this index.js file is present inside the src folder, right? So I have to go inside the src, and inside the src I will find the index.js. That's easy. And if I hit the enter button, then let's see. Yes, you can see our database connection is being established successfully. That's why we are getting this kind of response. Now another thing I am going to install, that is the nodemon. So nodemon will help you to propagate your any changes, and it will automatically restart your server. So I do not need to restart my server manually. That's why I am going to install the nodemon, and it will be a dev dependency. That's why I have put dash dash save dash dev. Okay, and after that nodemon. It will take 2 to 3 seconds for installing it. Just give me a second, everyone. Yes, it has been installed. Now go to the package.json file, and inside the scripts I will add another script that will called as a dev, and the command will be nodemon src index.js. Pretty easy, right? So we have configured our database connection. Now let's go inside the app.js and let's initialize our server here. Okay, if we are going to create our server using Express, on that time we have to import the Express first. Okay, so we have created our Express. Now we have to create an app by invoking the Express here, right? Okay, now we have to use some middlewares like app.use express.json, because suppose you want to send some data in the form of JSON from the front end. On that time, express.json will help you to grab those data. So I will put a limit like 100 KB. Also, I will use app.use express.url encoded. That means, suppose you want to pass any data from the URL. Okay, so on that time, if you want to grab those data from the URL, you have to use the express.url encoded middleware. And I also put a limit 100 KB, and also I will put another thing that is extended true, right? These are the basic things that we have already configured, right? Now I will simply export my app. I just want that when the database connection will be established, on that time my server will be started. If the database connection is not being established, on that time the server will not be started. Okay, now I will go inside the index.js, and if you remember, this connectdb function is an asynchronous function, right? So it will take some time, and we can also handle an asynchronous function by using some promise, right? A basic promise syntax is .then and .catch. So we can also handle this connectdb function using .then and also .catch. the catch portion is very much easy. Just console log the error. Nothing else is there. Just error the console log. Just console log the error. Sorry, my bad. And inside the then means if the connection is being established successfully with the database on that time, just console log a message like we are good to go for the development. And also I want to start my server. Okay, I have to import the app first. Now I am going to start the server. How can I start the server? Just app dot listen, and I have to put a port. Okay, now I have to define a port inside the env file. Port will be, let's suppose, 3000, and I will go inside the index.js and I will use process.env.port, and it will also take a callback, and inside the callback I will console log a message like server is listening on port process.env.port. That's easy, right? Now let's execute our backend and let's see what happened. And if you remember, I have already created a new script called dev. Let's run this script. How can I run it? Simple. You have to take the npm, then you have to put a run, and then the script dev. So npm run dev will help you to execute your backend. And let's wait for the response in the terminal. Okay, now you can see database connection is being established successfully. We have received a message like we are good to go for the development, and also our application is being started, means our server is working perfectly, right? Okay, now we have configured our backend at least 40%. Now we have to define a model, just because we are going to store some data for the to do, so we have to create a model first. So I will give a simple name like todo.model.js, and this model is nothing but a structure. Whenever you are going to send any data from your server to your database, on that time you will follow some structure, and by following that structure you will send some data. Okay, first of all I have to import the mongoose from mongoose. Also I need another thing that will called schema class, and I will create a basic to do schema, means the design of the to do new schema. So new schema will help you to create a schema. Also I will create another variable called to do, and I will just create a model using that to do schema. So I have to pass the name here like to do, and here the to do schema. That's pretty easy, and I will finally export it from here like export to default to do. Okay, let's suppose we are going to create a very basic backend for a to do, and let's suppose in our to do application we just put only the title of the to do, okay, not the description. So first thing is the title of the to do, right? And the title, the type of the title will definitely be a string, right? And it is required, means QUIRD. Required means if you are going to add a to do, on that time you have to pass the title, otherwise it will not be able to create a new to do. Okay, required true, and also the trim will be true. And here I will also add a flag, and status. Flag means suppose you have created a to do like we have to go to school, so I have to go to school. So whenever you will create a new to do on that time, the to do will be considered as a means you will consider that the to do is not being completed, means the status is false. So if you click on that to do, then the to do will be as a mark as read. That means you have completed that to do. So for creating that feature, we have to add a status field. So during creation of a new to do, the status field will be false, means type will be boolean, and its a default value, means whenever you are going to create a new to do, on that time the value of the status will be false. That's it. And here I will also add a new thing, that is timestamps, means when we create the to do, when we update the to do, that will also be stored inside the timestamps, and it will be true. So that is our basic, means that is our basic, very basic model of a to do. Okay, I hope you have understood all the things. Just because it is a workshop, so it is utterly impossible for me to explain each and everything to you. Okay, mongoose, okay, mongoose. Now we have created our model, we have initialized the database connection, app.js, everything we have created. Another thing that we have to set, that is a route. Without endpoint we cannot access any controller. So I will put a name like todo dot route.js, and inside the todo dot route.js file I am going to create my route. First of all, if you are going to create a route, on that time you have to import the router, and this router is being provided by the Express. Okay, and you have to create a router variable by invoking it, means by invoking the router, and just export it, export a default router. Pretty simple, right? Why there is a red mark? Okay, pretty simple. Now again go inside the app.js and import the router that you have already created. How can I import the router? I can import it, and just because I have export the router variable as a default, so I can assign any name here, like to do route. And from where I am going to import it, I am going to import it from the routes folder, and inside the routes folder there is a file called todo.route.js. And also I am going to use that route, and I have to set an endpoint. Endpoint means a basic address, and on that address your entire controller will be work. So API slash v1 slash to do. On this endpoint I am going to use my route, that is called to do route. Pretty easy. So we have understood how to create a route, basic route, and also how to use that route, means how to assign a particular endpoint and how to use that route. Okay, pretty easy. Now the final thing and most important thing, that is the controllers. Controllers is the main thing in the database that will help you to perform some operations like login, logout, create to do, update to do, delete to do. Okay, so I will give a name called to do dot controller.js. Okay, very first thing we have to import, that is the to do model. So first thing we are going to import, that is the to do model. From where? From the models inside the to do.model.js. That's easy. Now very first thing we have to create some functions like create to do. It will be asynchronous function, and it will take two parameters, request and response. also another thing that will be create to do list all to dos. Okay, another thing that is const list to do by title, means if you have provide if you are going to provide the title of the to do, on that time it will just display on the to do that has already been created. Okay, another thing that is we have to update the to do, right? So update by id means we have to pass an id, and without passing the id we will not be able to update our to do, right? And after updating the to do, we have to add another feature that is toggle status, means suppose I have created a to do, on that time the status will be false, and if I click on the to do, then the status will be true, right? That means a toggle, if I click then it will become true, again click, if it will become false, again click, it will becomes true, right? So for implementing that feature we have to put in another function that will called toggle status, and the final thing that will be delete to do async request and response. Okay, pretty easy. Now let's create to do. Okay, suppose for creating a to do I need a title, and this title will I will receive from request.body. Pretty easy. Now I will check whether I have received the title or not. I have to check it first, otherwise I will not be able to create a to do, right? So if I have not received any title, on that time I will return a response along with a status code of 400, and also put a JSON message like title is required. Pretty easy, right? Suppose we have received the title, means we have captured the title from request.body, on that time I have to create a document. You can see I have imported the to do model, and this to do model will give a function called create, and inside the create I will be able to create the to do. Pretty easy, right? And also I have to store it inside a variable called to do document, and it will be a asynchronous function. Okay, now I have created the to do, right? But I don't know whether the to do has been saved into my database or not, so I have to make a database call for checking whether the to do document is being created successfully or not, right? So how can I do that? So to do model also give us another feature, means another function that is called find by id, and you can see here I have created the to do, and also I have stored the response of that to do inside this to do document. And if you know one thing, that is if you create any document in mongodb, then mongodb will automatically put a underscore id uh, on every document, and this underscore id is unique in each document. Okay, so if the document is being created and it is stored inside this to do document, on that time the id underscore id will also be present inside this variable. So I will take the variable and I will put an underscore id, and I will store it in a to do await. Okay, now I will put in another if, and I will check whether I have received any information from the database or not. If I have not received any information from the database, that means the to do is not being created and it will be a server side error. For that I have to use the 500 status code. Means just I will put a universal error message that is called something went wrong. Pretty easy, right? And at the final I will just return a response along with the status code of 200, and I will put a JSON message that will be the to do. That means our to do is being created successfully, and it is our very basic controller. We can add many filtration, but just maintaining the simplicity of the very first project. That's why I have not created any other filtration here. Okay, so let's export it. Export the create to do function, and let go inside the to do.route.js, and I have to import the create to do. Okay, and I have to configure it in a route. So I will take the router, and router will provide a route. Okay, here I have to set an endpoint that will called create, and I will prefer to use post method just because I have to pass the title from the front end to the back end, from the front end to the server. That's why I am going to use the post method, and inside the post method I will use create to do. Okay, now you can see our server is being restarted automatically just because of nodemon. Okay, let's go inside the postman and add our first request. Just keep in your mind, you have select the method that is post, right? So you have to choose the post method here, and you have to enter the URL http://. After that you have to write localhost colon your port number. If you remember, I have put a port number of 3000. After that, your base endpoint, the base endpoint was API/v1/todo, and also the sub route, that is the create, and on this sub route I am going to create my to do, right? And if I click on the send button, and let's see what happened. I think there is a problem. API/v1/todo/create create. Okay, everything is perfect here. Let's take a JSON response. What happened here? 3000 is okay. Let's check the base URL. Okay, set the app.js APIs. Okay, API, I have put the AP1. Okay, that's my bad, everyone. Sorry for that. And if I again click the send button, and here you can see I have received a message that is called, if I zoom it, you can see message title is required. So I have to put the title first. How can I put the title? Just go inside the body, just because we are going to receive the data from the body, and here from the none you have to select the raw, and you have to choose the type, which will be JSON, and I have to put the title. Title will be like workshop day 1. Okay, and if I again click the send button, and here you can see our document is being created. That means our to do is being created, and it is the underscore ID that has been assigned to this document, and the title of this to do is workshop day 1, and the status is false. And if I go into my database and if I go to the browse collections and let's see what happened here. Okay, here you can see the to-do DB is being created, and inside the to-do DB there is a collection name that is called to-dos, and inside this to-dos our very first to-do has been created, that is workshop day 1. That means our backend is working fine, right? Now let's create another controller which is basically list all to-dos. How can I do that? That is very easy. You have to use to-do dot find. So this to-do dot find will help you to find all the to-dos, right? So const to-dos await. Okay, I will simply put a filter, basic filter, that will check whether any to-do is present in the database or not. Suppose in the database there is no to-do present. On that time it will just check and it will return an error like status code of 400 dot json, and it will put a I have to put a message like no to do is present in the DB. Okay, otherwise I will return a response along with the status code of 200 and also a JSON response with to do's. Very easy, right? Okay, now I have to set it, list all to do's. I have to set it here, and I have to go inside the todo.route.js and I will paste it here. Okay, just a second, I have to organize it. Okay, list all to do's, and I will also add another route for it, like router.route, and here I will put a sub route that will called list, and I will simply use a get method, and here I will put the list all to do's. Let's see whether our server is being started or not. Yes, it is started. Let's copy the entire URL from here and let's open another request, and I will put a list here. Okay, very easy, just because list is our sub route. And if I click on this send button, and here you can see I have already created a basic to do, that is workshop day 1, and it has been captured, right? Let's create another to do. Okay, and the to do name will be workshop day 2. If I send the request here, you can see our to do is being created successfully, right? Okay, let's create another to do which is called JavaScript. Okay, it is being created, and also create another to do which is called backend workshop day 1. And if I click on the send button, you can see backend workshop day 1 has been created successfully. Now let's try the list all to do's endpoint. Okay, means basically the controller, and let's see what happened if we click on this endpoint. You can see we have captured all the to do's that has been created, right? So that means our controller is working very fine, right? There is no error, and it really works in a fast manner. Okay, so we have already created our 2 controllers. Okay, now here is another thing, that is list to do by title. So using title I can also list out the to-dos, right? So how can I do that? For listing all the to-dos using title, I have to capture the title first. So I will capture the title here from request.body, and I will check whether I have received the title or not. Just put a simple if statement dot status of 400. If user have not passed the title on that time, I have to show the status code of 400. That means it is a client side error. Message title is required. Pretty easy, right? Suppose we have captured the title. On that time, I will use the to do, and I will also use the find. And inside the find, I will search on the basis of title. And let's suppose if any keyword matches with the title, on that time, the to do will automatically fetched from the database. So I have to use dollar regex. Regex will help you to match some cases. Means suppose there is a to do called workshop day 1, workshop day 2, and I have forgotten that in which workshop I have completed. So I have just remember one thing, that is workshop. So if I search for the workshop, then it will check whether the workshop word is present inside a sentence or not. If it will present, then it will return the entire to do. So I will simply put the title here, and also I have to pass on another options which is called I, means case insensitive. That means it will check, suppose there's a to do like workshop, and I am going to search it in a way like workshop. So then there will be no problem, there will be no conflict. It will, if I search on the basis of workshop in this manner, then it will also fetch this workshop also. Okay, so for that reason I have to put the options I, and I have to store the response like to do's have it. Okay, and also I will just copy this if statement from here, and I will put it here, and I will put the to do's, and also put a message like no record found. And finally, if suppose we have there is a lot of to do's are there in the database, and we have successfully captured those to do's, so on that time I have to return all the to do's in that manner, like to do's. Simple. There is a hectic in backend. Backend is also a very easy subject. Okay, so list to do by title, and let's copy the name and paste it here, and also go inside the to-do.route.js, and let's paste the name also here, and I will also create another route, and I will put a name here like list by title. I know that is a very lengthy name, but for better understanding, I am just following this kind of syntax. List by title. Let's see whether the server is started. Yes, server is being started. Let's create the entire endpoint from here, and let's put it here, and also list by title, and let's see whether the endpoint is a post or not. Yes, it is a post. So choose the post, and if I click on the send button, here you can see message title is required. And let's suppose there is a to do. There are two to dos like workshop day 1, workshop day 2, and I have just forgotten which workshop I have completed. So if I search on the basis of, okay, just give me a second, I have to select the raw and also the JSON. So if I search on the basis of workshop, and if I hit the button, and let's see what happened. You can see all the to-dos uh, inside the title that have the word workshop. All the to-dos has been fetched successfully, like workshop day 1, workshop day 2, backend workshop day 1. Okay, and if I write the workshop word in this manner, workshop, then it will also be worked perfectly. Okay, so I think you have understood all the things, right? I know it is very much faster. I can understand that, but just because it is a workshop, so uh, there is a limited time, and on that limited time I have to complete everything, right? Okay, so I have already created 3 controllers. Okay, update by id, toggle status. Okay, let's try this update by id. Okay, and this toggle status and the delete to do will be assigned for you guys. Just go for the Google, go for the chat GPT, search how mongoose provides a method that will help you to update a to do, that will help you to delete a to do, right? So let's work with update by id. And let me show you another thing that is different from request.body. Suppose I have to update a to do. On that time I need the id of that to do, right? How can I grab the id? Simple. I will take the id from where? From the URL, means request.params. And also I need another thing, that is title. I want to update the title, and I will take it from the body. And let's check if the id is not there, and also if the title is not there. On that time I will return a response dot status of 400, and also dot json. And inside the json I will put a message like id and title is required. Pretty easy, right? Pretty easy. Now, okay, just okay, no problem. Now suppose I have already put an id and also title. Now I have to update the to do, so I have to find the to do on the basis of id, just because I have put the id here, right? So I will put the id here. Okay, I think let me show you another function, that is find by id and update. So I have to put the id first, right? After that I have to use another operator in mongodb, that is set operator. This set operator will help you to update a new value, or update an existing value, or add a new value into your document. On that time you can use the set operator. So I want to replace the title. Okay, and here I will also add another parameter like new true, and I will hold it inside the variable like updated to do have it. Okay, just keep in your mind, guys, we can add multiple filtration on our backend, just maintaining the simplicity for our very first project. I don't want to make it very hard. I know it seems very hard because I am just teaching you in a very fast manner, so it becomes very hard, and I don't want to make it another extreme level of hard. So on that situation, for that reason, I am not going to put any kind of another filtration here. Okay, suppose our to do is being updated, so let's send a response to the front end. I will put it here. Okay, just format the document, status code of 200, and I will pass the updated to do. Simple, right? So update by id. Okay, I will put it here, and I will also go inside the route and paste it here, and I will create another route, and let me show you how we can handle a param. Suppose I'm going to update, and if you want to pass any parameter in the URL, on that time you have to put a colon. Okay, you have to put a colon, and after that the name, just because I have just assuming that the ID will be in the form of this kind of ID, so for that reason I have to put a semicolon and also the same name, same ID here. Okay, and dot patch. Patch means suppose you want to update a existing document, so on that time you can use patch, or either you can use put. So update by ID, pretty easy, right? And our server is also being restarted automatically with the help of nodemon. And let me copy the entire URL from here and let me put it here. Just put a patch method, and here update, and here I have to put the ID. Let's suppose I want to change the name of this workshop day 1 into only day 1. Okay, I want to just change the name of the workshop day 1 into only day 1. So I have to put the ID first here, and if I click on the send button, and here you can see the message ID and title is required, but I have already put the ID. Now I have to put the new title. Let me choose the raw, and here the JSON. Okay, and I have to put a new title first, right? So let's suppose the title will be day 1, and if I click on the send button, and you can see the title of workshop day 1 is being changed into only day 1. And if you go here and if you search only for the workshop, then you will not be able to get this day 1. Let me show you guys. And if you send it, you can see you will not be able to find the only day 1. And if you write here the day 1, and if you hit the send button, you can see only the day 1 you will get, and also you will get another response, that is backend workshop day 1, right? So I think you have understood how this thing works, how backend works, right? And your task is to create toggle status and delete to do. These two controller you have to create. You can use Google, you can use ChatGPT, you can use Gemini, you can use Copilot, you can use anything. Pieces developers tools, you can use anything. Just take help, understand the code, and implement it. Okay, I hope you have understood all the things, guys, and thank you for watching this video, and just stay tuned for the another video for task 2. Okay, till then, bye bye guys, and thank you for watching this video, and don't forget to like and subscribe our channel. Thank you everyone.